Howdy to all my fellow readers. It's another episode of Ghost Readers in the Sky. A couple of preliminary things before I get into the roundup of what I've read recently and what I'm currently reading. First, a lot of you have checked in because you know that the air quality around where I live right now is not good at all, not healthy at all. It's smoke from the forest fires around. The air quality is getting better. The air quality index is going down. We move from red to orange, but it still is dangerous to be outside for very long. But we are all taking care of ourselves and we're safe, and I do appreciate everybody who's reached out just to check in. I am much obliged to each and every one of you. The second preliminary is that I got in a reading slump. It only lasted a week or a little more, but I was having a hard time reading and enjoying things. If you're interested in hearing a story about my slump and how I got out of my slump, I'd be happy to do that. Let me know. And if there's some interest, I'll put a story together. If not, this is my weekly roundup of what I've read, what I'm currently reading. This really covers a couple of weeks at the end of July, so I'm posting this on the first day of August. I read quite a bit for Private Eye July, and I have a number of videos up about that, which you can check out. Then I kind of got slumped. And the book that brought me out of that slump is, you may be surprised to hear this, a Western. It's a Western called A Man Called Justice. It's one of a series of 4 novels written by John Deacon. It was published in 2022, and in 2023 it was a Spur Award finalist for Best Traditional Novel. Spur Awards are given by the Western Writers of America, representing the best writing about the American West every year. And this book is, in a lot of ways, it's an old-fashioned pulp Western. This book was only 228 pages, so fairly short, and it uses all the Western tropes that a reader of Westerns might find in Zane Grey and Max Brand and Louis L'Amour. And you can see how it ties into some of the newer tropes from writers like Charles Portis and Jack Schaefer. The author, John Deacon, he plays with, I think of it as they were little blocks of plot. There was character and dialogue, and the way that he put all those pieces together feels very traditional, feels very much like a Western, and yet it still feels new. In the first chapter, we kind of get set up for what's going to happen. There's a man who is being dragged by a horse through the desert of New Mexico. We see him get beaten and stripped and hung in a tree, and he dies. Then after the gang that finished him off had ridden away, there was a storm, there was lightning, he got struck by lightning, and his heart starts beating again. But he doesn't remember who he is. So that sets us up. That's all in the first chapter. That sets us up for the main plot of the story. We're dealing with themes certainly of revenge, but also of compassion and corruption and isolation, and there's plenty of fighting. The dialogue sometimes was trite. The author would use phrases like knee-high to a grasshopper, and it was a fair fight, and there are good guys and there are bad guys, and I'm one of the good guys. There's nothing wrong with these words, and they certainly are words that people have said and will continue to say, but they just, in the context of this book, seemed a little bit trite sometimes. Not enough to pull me out of the story, just enough to make me scratch my head and say, why would this character say this thing in this way? That's a pretty minor quibble. We as readers learn more about these strangers' secrets, and we're starting to unravel some of the mystery of his past as he does. And we did not come in this book to a full conclusion, and I assume that it takes the full 4-book series to really understand what happened, where this man came from, and he just goes by the name Justice. So if you're somebody who likes those pulpy westerns and dime novels and mass market paperbacks of old, you'll probably enjoy this book. And I think if this is 21st century lowbrow fiction, well then just deal me in. That was the only book I finished, but I'm reading quite a few other things. I'm doing a modified Bradbury challenge. I think a lot of people on the internet have been starting this, using Ray Bradbury's suggestion of every day reading one poem, one short story, one essay. I'm not doing essays, but I have been, and I just started it last week, so this is still pretty new, and we'll see how it continues. But I have been doing at least one poem and one short story every day, in addition to the other things I'm reading. I've been working my way through, in a very deliberate way, this anthology, New Cowboy Poetry. It's a contemporary gathering. It's edited by Hal Cannon, and now I'm just going through from the beginning to the end. And so far I have read poems by Daryl Arnold, Finn Bales, Ed Brown, Bob Christensen, and John Doffelmeyer, and there's a lot more to go. So this is a good place for me to be. I'm really enjoying. I do enjoy cowboy poetry. I think most of you who have been watching this channel for any amount of time know that I do, and this has been a good compilation to dig into. For short stories, this is the one I've been working through. It's Silverado Presents Top Western Stories by the Top Authors. What's it called? Western Stories by Today's Top Writers. There we go. Western Stories by Today's Top Writers. Edited by Jeffrey Marlott. And it's pretty good. I picked it up because it has Von McKee's story, Point of Impact, which won a Spur Award recently, or was nominated for Best Short Fiction. But I have read just some great stories, and not necessarily by people who always write Westerns, but by people who write in other genres and who are trying their hand at Westerns. So it's a really interesting mix of authors. I've read stories so far from Rod Miller, Nick James, Mary Phan, and Steve Hawkinsmith. So what else am I currently reading? I'm doing a buddy read with Alan from Alan's Reads. We're reading To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. So we're reading this one together, and we're a little over halfway through. There are 3 major parts. The first one takes up a little more than the first half of the book, and we've finished that and actually had some discussions about it. We're working on the second part, which is quite a bit shorter, and then the third and final part. And we'll have thoughts about those. The other book I started, a Western classic, I have this big red Time Life series, right? Yeah, Time Life books series of The Big Sky by A.B. Guthrie. This is a Western. So far it's about, we got a kid, well, he's 17, who's run away from home, and we're following him on his adventures. I'm only about, am I a quarter of the way through? Maybe not quite that much. I'll tell you more about that. I got to thinking about A.B. Guthrie because not long ago, as Too Tight-Lautrec has been doing her series on Pulitzer Prize winners, A.B. Guthrie is one of those. He won the Pulitzer for The Way West, which is the book that comes after Big Sky, but I've never read A.B. Guthrie. So there it is. That's what's going on right now. That's what I've read. Very short list. And what I am reading. I appreciate all of you who watch these videos, especially those of you who watch all the way to the end. I am much obliged to all of my viewers. And that wraps it up for this episode of Ghost Readers in the Sky. Yippee-yi-yi.